Welcome to ThinkTech on OC16, Hawaii's weekly newscast on things that matter to tech and to Hawaii. I'm Jay Fidell.
And I'm Duke Oishi.
Hawaiian Electric Company has been in the news a lot lately. In our show today, we'll cover HECO's high-tech peaking plant at Kapolei and the 4 new vice presidents it has recently promoted.
We'll do a walk around the peaking plant and talk with the 4 new HECO VPs, Colton Ching, Don Giovanni, Ron Cox, and Scott Seu.
First, we'll take our tour at the peaking plant at Kapolei with the engineer that supervised its development, Bob Eisler. This place is in great shape. I'm so happy that you mowed the grass for us before we came out.
They do a really good job of maintaining it out here. The project as a whole was $195 million.
95, okay.
That included a transmission line and some work at a few substations too.
You know, when you get up close to it, that is a monumental piece of gear. That is serious. Yeah, I'm going to take a picture of it.
The stack is 210 feet tall.
Yeah. There is a certain industrial aesthetic to it, you know.
I think it's beautiful. So remember I was telling you got to bring in air and fuel together and mix it up. So the way air is brought in is through this sawtooth pattern here.
Yeah.
That's a big filter house. So we need really clean air. So air comes in there, comes down into the turbine. And the way the air comes in is there's actually a set of 14 rows of fan blades, I'll call them, turbine blades, that when the turbine's spinning actually sucks the air in. So the way we start it up is there's a 2,000 horsepower electric motor tied to it. So we start that up and that brings it up to speed, starts bringing in the air, and at a certain point we can put in fuel, and then
you don't need the...
And then we don't need the electric motor anymore.
Yeah.
But that electric motor is the key part of black starting. That's what we need to provide power to be able to black start the unit.
So how do you get that started if you have no power?
So we have 2 black start diesel generators I'll show you.
Okay.
And the diesel generators start up on battery power. And then they in turn can start this. The generator produces 13.8 thousand volts. So we step it up to 138,000 volts, and then we go to various distribution substations which step it down to 46,000 volts, and then ultimately down to 120 or 240 to your home. The experience I got in the Navy and the training I got in the Navy was invaluable to come here. And you'll see that we have a lot of former Navy guys at Hawaiian Electric, and a lot of former nuclear, Navy guys here. Prior to going to this transformer, we actually take some of the power and we transform it down to lower voltages so that we can supply the power that the turbine and the rest of the station needs.
Okay.
So that's essentially what goes out to here.
And the fans are to keep the transformer cool?
That's correct. These transformers are actually filled with an oil to keep everything cool. That oil, it gets a little hotter, and then the fans cool that down.
Why is it hot?
I think it's hot for 2 reasons. One, just the sun, does hit this enclosure and it heats up. Normally there's a exhaust fan running, but I had them turn it off for us because it makes too much noise. And I'm not sure the last time they ran the unit, but it does take some time for everything to cool off after they run the unit.
It's not on right now.
No, it's not on right now.
If it was on, we'd hear it.
You would hear it, and it would be really hot in here.
Okay.
But you would definitely hear it. So earlier I told you that it's like an airplane engine. There's actually 2 different kinds of combustion turbines. There's ones they call aeroderivatives, which actually are airplane engines that have been modified to produce power. And then there's frame units, which this is. There's no way this would ever go up an airplane. You can see how big and thick it is and how sturdy it is. The airplane type engines, the largest one they make to produce power is about 90 megawatts, and that's something very new. Otherwise, probably around 50 megawatts is as high as you're going to get. The way this works is the air does come down through here. This goes up to that sawtooth part I was telling you about.
Yeah.
Comes in through this is a set of fan blades that actually pulls the air in. So then it comes into this part, which is the combustion area. We have 14 different combustion chambers around. So the fuel comes in and it's divided into 14 separate flows. They go in here, the air comes in here, they combust this. You get the hot gases in here, which are all go down, and then there's 4 rows of turbine blades here, and those hot gases actually, that's what makes this turn, going through those fan blades. And then it goes off to the exhaust. We actually have to inject water into the combustion chamber also, and that's for emissions controls. For every pound of fuel, we use about a pound of water. Over the years, certain technologies have changed in these turbines that allow them to put out more power. A lot of it's metallurgy, using different metals, finding out what you use. It's ways to pull this off and cool other parts. Because what limits this turbine, really, it's how hot different parts get.
Right.
And the higher the load, the hotter it gets.
So this is actually it. We're looking at it.
This is the turbine.
This is one turbine, one shaft.
This is a single shaft machine. It's a big one.
All in all, impressive. The peaking plant is an incredible piece of cutting-edge technology, and it was great to have the chance to see it with the guy who built it, Bob Eisler.
We didn't have enough time to broadcast all the footage from our visit to the peaking plant. If you want to see the rest of our walk around the Kapolei facility, visit ThinkTechHawaii.com. While we were there, we had some time to talk with one of the new vice presidents, Ron Cox.
So how does this plant, this brand new plant, differ, aside from the fact that it's biofuel, differ from the one you have, the mainstay at Kahi and Kalailoa and was it AES across the way?
Right.
How does it differ from those other plants?
Well, those our units, we have a total of 17. Our main units that operate on a daily basis, base loaded, we call them, are mainly steam boiler and steam turbine units. This is a peaking plant, and it's designed to operate to meet the peak load period time of the day. So it's quick starting, fairly quick starting, and it comes up to full load fairly quickly to meet that demand. So it doesn't operate all day normally. And that's the main difference. Our other units, baseload units, typically operate with our other partners here on Oahu to provide that steady power necessary to meet the demand.
24/7.
Right.
So when would this plant come up? What circumstances would require it to come up?
Well, as we approach, for example, each day, there's a period of time during the day, and at this time of year, it's generally between about 6:30 and 7 p.m. in the evening. When everyone comes home from work, they turn on their kitchens, start turning on lights, and our growth, our load peaks at that time. And so rather than start another more expensive unit, perhaps we start this one and just operate it for a few hours during that peak period and then shut it back down. It does have more dynamic response, we can call it, and that's a great capability to have, and it's an important capability to have as we introduce more renewable energy sources to our system in the future.
There's various kinds of fuel we have in the system. What are they and what plants do they serve?
Well, we have, for our plants, we operate on liquid fuels, and so traditionally we've used heavy fuel oil for most of our units here on Oahu, and then we've used a diesel, a lighter fuel.
Those are fossil fuels.
Those are fossil fuels, that's right. And so part of our clean energy initiative, our plan for the future, is to transition some of those fuels from fossil fuel to a cleaner burning, renewable liquid fuel. And that makes a lot of sense for us because that transition, in most cases, we can do that with a minimal amount of investment and cost to be able to use that green fuel in our plants.
So it's the old thing about energy, about tuning and learning the practical experience of having the equipment operate all day.
That's right.
And then making a record, so you never forget.
That's right. That's what our operators are in the process of doing today.
So it strikes me that this is, I mean, aside from being a laboratory with Siemens, it's a laboratory with HECO. In other words, what you learn here, what you are now still learning here, are lessons in that book, so to speak.
Yes.
There are lessons you can use on all of the fossil fuel plants you have operating, and one day, assuming a reliable source of biodiesel, one day the whole, liquid fuel system, generation system could be biofuel.
That's conceivable. That's right. And of course, you hit it on it in your question there. We are looking for a local source of fuel to fuel these units. We welcome all forms of renewable energy. As we bring more wind and solar on our system, the system characteristics change, and we need units that respond more dynamically to changes in what we call variable generation. But the other key from an energy security standpoint is to be able to procure those fuels locally. And so our goal Our ultimate goal is to be able to buy fuels that are produced here in the state of Hawaii. And now we truly have a state where we're more secure.
Then we talked with another of the new VPs, Colton Ching.
One of the challenges in reducing our fossil fuel consumption and increasing the amount of renewable energy resources is that we need to find a way to operate the system differently. And there's a whole bunch of things that we're doing in the company sort of behind the scenes that actually helps with that, and ultimately delivers the kind of service that our customers expect from us. So some examples of what we're doing there is looking at modifications to our grid, sort of changing design of our infrastructure to move away from an architecture that's based around a few large generators to one where we have many more generators located throughout the island.
Closer to load.
Actually, in some cases closer to load, in some cases very far from the grid.
To stabilize the grid.
Because if you're gonna develop a wind farm, you want to develop where the wind resource is the best, or solar, where you want to develop it where the solar resource is the best, and that in a perfect world that'll be exactly where your load is.
Sure.
But in many cases it may be very far away from load, and so we need to adapt our grid and do all of the necessary redesign and change in how we operate our grid in order to do that. Ultimately, what value it provides to customers is that we're for people that understand that in order for the customers to benefit from what services Hawaiian Electric provides, we each have a responsibility not only to take care of our own area and be responsible for the things that we have under our organization, but the four of us each have a responsibility to support each other.
In your, 4 months so far, have you noticed any difference in sort of the flow of change at all? Or
yeah,
it might be too early to tell,
we're definitely just starting on this journey. 4 months is not a lot of time, but already I think people are more accepting of change. People have sort of taken sort of the fear of change and sort of flipped it around to sort of be a motivator of doing things differently. So where we were afraid of change or sort of scratching our heads to figure out how do we do it, I see, at least personally, I see this growing sense of optimism in our workforce. They're sort of getting their arms around change and sort of owning it. They're saying, okay, we need to move from here to there. They're championing it and saying, okay, how do we get there? What do I do in my own job to help with this change, rather than how is change going to impact my job?
After that, we met with Vice President Don Giovanni.
I'm the Vice President of Energy Delivery at Hawaiian Electric. Energy delivery is transmission and distribution. That's the common term throughout our industry.
Okay.
So it's one of the large operational areas in our company. It's basically an electric utility, two sides. There's the operational area that produces the electricity in power plants.
Generation.
That's generation. And then there's the side of the business, which is taking that energy and transmitting it and distributing it to our customers. So in my job, I oversee that part of the operation on it, and it's for Oahu. So all the transmission and distribution on Oahu. And our basic job is to work to sustain the physical and operational integrity of the transmission and distribution system on Oahu. We're committed to a clean energy future, which is in and of itself a transformational force within our company and within our state as we transition from an oil-based energy structure to one in which we have a very high complement of renewable energy, solar, wind, geothermal, and the like. Clean energy for Hawaiian Electric and our customers means a new and better future. It means in the long term keeping the money that we spend for fuel within the state. And in the short and long term, I think it means a lot more stability in terms of the price of electricity. I don't think there's any compromise in service or reliability with renewable energy. For us in T&D, it's just talking specifics. Let's look to the new wind farm that's coming on Oahu. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's the Kahuku wind farm up at North Shore, which is just going commercial this month in December. We're doing the final energization testing this week.
Wow.
Well, our role in that is basically the interconnection. You know, the wind farm itself is by a third-party developer. We work with them in the design phase of the project, and then with the actual interconnection and the new switching station that will be part of the wind farm, that interconnection, our folks play a major role.
It features a lot of new technology.
Features a lot of new
battery energy storage
technology.
system and
Yeah, and another challenge is that it's remotely located relative to where the people live. So we have to get that power from there through the grid to where the customers are. That's part of the challenge as well. There are just numerous renewable energy projects in development, small, large, different types, but they all at one point or another have to be interconnected to the grid, and that's where our T&D folks play a major role.
And finally, we met with Scott Seu to discuss how things are going for him at HECO. By the way, what is your title now these days?
I am Vice President of Energy Resources.
Okay, that sounds a lot like natural energy resources.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Natural, renewable energy, especially. That's my focus. So contracting for wind, solar, all different types of renewable energy. Also doing some of the work on interesting initiatives such as electric vehicles, demand response programs, energy storage, research and R&D projects. So it's sort of a hodgepodge, but all supporting renewables.
There are people in this world who give their eye teeth for that job.
It's a dream job,
It
actually.
is a dream job.
Yeah,
Boy, that's wonderful. But first, let's talk about the culture of the company. You know, everybody thinks of a utility company as very staid and old-fashioned, you know, and what's today is going to be tomorrow, and nothing changes. But this sounds young and vital. It sounds dynamic. There's something happening. There's a breath of air somehow. What's happening?
Oh, it's very exciting, very dynamic. I think that's a great word for it. You know, if I look back to my 17 years at Hawaiian Electric, when I first started, I was an environmental scientist. I got hired in to get permits, environmental permits, to build new fossil fuel power plants. And, you know, I was always interested in doing my part to protect the environment. And so that was my way of getting into that. You know, okay, if we're going to be generating power using oil, at least we can comply with the environmental requirements, do things right.
At the time, it seemed very advanced, I'm sure.
Yeah, and but that was our world. So fast forward now, we have the energy agreement that we signed a few years ago. We do not have any plans, nor do we expect to ever build a new fossil fuel power plant in this state. And
that is a fantastic thing.
And for me to be able to say that publicly, on
There you
camera,
go, on camera. Now you're really committed.
I mean, it is quite a transformation. Culturally, you know, what we're doing is we are laying all the cards out on the table. You know, between myself and the other new VPs, you know, we're really bringing a team approach to this. So we have the process covered from when we first are trying to plan our system. We have Colton. When we are doing the engineering and the contracting for the renewable power, the contracting is my piece. The engineering and the actual construction of the electrical system.
The delivery.
The delivery, we have Don Giovanni's area. Ron Cox supporting the overall biofuels initiatives, and to the extent that the new renewable generators have to be synced up with our fleet of generators, our own biofuel generators. we are all on the same page and we're all trying to work towards the same goal.
So you know these guys.
I know these
You're
guys.
working with them all the time.
We have been working very closely for several years now. We all come from some different backgrounds. Some of us from, working within the company for quite a while. Dan Giovanni spent some time running power plants on the Big Island. Of course, Ron coming from the Navy with his operations experience, Colton with his planning and engineering, myself, I guess, I'm not exactly sure what I bring to the table other
I'm sure
than
you bring lots to the table.
yeah, but the point is, yes, we know each other very well. We've been operating as a close team for quite a while, and this started well before we were promoted. What we bring to the table now is our organizations are leading this transformation.
And this week, we've had plenty of news about HECO, including the news that they've negotiated a new agreement for a supply of biofuel for the peaking plant, and also that they've entered into an agreement with Castle and Cooke that moves the wind farm project on Lanai forward. All in all, great progress toward green energy in Hawaii. When the Clean Energy Initiatives first started in 2008, it took a while to actually ramp up, but now it seems to be going. This news about HECO, shows you that HECO is active. It's getting into deals. It's moving ahead on large projects. It's going down the track. It's following through. That's very impressive. The promotion of those 4 guys as vice presidents, it's more than just an internal corporate promotion. It's a statement that they're committed to clean energy. I think HECO will continue to make moves like this, and we will see great success, actually, in the Clean Energy Initiative. It's the beginning of a good year for clean energy and for HECO.
I agree. And now that we're in a new year, there's a new calendar of events. Let's take a look at what ThinkTech will be doing over the next few months.
Next week, on January 27th, we'll be working with the Hawaii Venture Capital Association to present the Deal of the Year Awards lunch at the Plaza Club. See hvca.org.
On February 24th, we'll present a luncheon program at the Plaza Club called How Hawaii Can Take Advantage of the Business and Investment Opportunities presented by the APEC Summit.
On March 23rd, we'll present a half-day program at the Plaza Club called Housing in Hawaii, dealing with the problems we have in providing adequate housing for Hawaii's people.
On April 28th, we'll present a luncheon program at the Plaza Club called Reciprocal Investments Between Hawaii and China, featuring a panel to discuss how Hawaii investors can invest in China and a second panel to discuss how Hawaii companies can attract investments from China.
And now, here's Bill Spencer, president of the Hawaii Venture Capital Association, with this week's Spensation.
I tell you, I'm just fascinated by this story that came out recently. A study done by Ohio State University geophysicists. Based on very comprehensive research done in Iceland, they applied the same techniques to studying the magma that is underneath the whole state of Hawaii. And there's long been a debate about, well, where is this magma? How far beneath the Earth's crust is it? And some scientists have said it's 20 kilometers or more. Others have said it's at a shallower depth. And well, based on this study and based on 1,000 samplings of the chemistry of the magma itself, they've discovered that the magma actually exists in less than 2 miles, 2.5 kilometers below the Earth's crust.
It's much shallower than we thought before.
Much shallower and much more accessible because there's apparently a network of conduits and lava tubes that bring it closer to the surface. And Hawaii apparently is very unique in the whole world as far as areas with volcanic activity. So the thing that is astounding about this is a renewable, perpetual source of energy that we could tap into, and we've already tapped into, but it could expand island-wide. Think about it, Jay. Puna geothermal's been around for, what, 20 years? They've proven the concept. It's a proven concept. It works. It's 24/7. What about geothermal? What are we doing about that? Should we think about connecting the Big Island to the grid via the undersea cable? They're doing the EIS right now for 400 megawatts of wind power.
Mm-hmm.
What about a perpetual source of geothermal? I'm fascinated by that. That's my Spensation thought for the week. But here we're sitting on millions of years of power that could power the whole state. We need to look into this.
And we have to come to terms on it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Bill.
We'll be right back to wrap up this week's edition of ThinkTech. But first, we want to thank our underwriters.
Thanks to the Scheidler Family Foundation. Jay Scheidler, through the Scheidler Family Foundation, is an active supporter of a number of educational, cultural, and charitable organizations, including ThinkTech Hawaii.
Hawaiian Electric Company, HECO and its affiliates Miko on Maui, and HECO on the Big Island are deeply committed to supporting the communities they serve.
Galen Ho. Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company which has a large presence in and commitment to Hawaii.
The High-Tech Development Corporation, HTDC, is a state agency dedicated to developing Hawaii's high-tech industry, diversifying our economy, and providing quality jobs for our people.
Okay, Duke. That wraps up this week's edition of ThinkTech. Remember, you can watch ThinkTech on OC16 several times every week. For additional times, check out oc16.tv.
For lots more ThinkTech videos and for underwriting and sponsorship opportunities on ThinkTech on OC16, visit thinktechhawaii.com. Be a sponsor and help us reach Hawaii.
I'm Jay Fidell. Thanks for joining us on ThinkTech.
And I'm Duke Oishi. Aloha, everyone.